things and where that came from and how that fits into the story?
Oh, that would be a good question after we run that video, maybe. I think there's a certain amount of time people like playing with things, like I said, that pacing element that was in those other Arkham games. Mechanics, enemies, the sort of stuff. I get this experience when I'm playing fighting games. There's a friend of mine I went to school with, and I remember when we got Street Fighter 2, and we were both playing it, he hammered me in the corner of the map, and he's firing Hadokens after Hadokens after Hadokens. He wouldn't tell me how to do the damn move, and I was really frustrated because there's nothing I wanted more than to shoot those things back at him. But there was a point where it turned around because I learned how to do the hurricane kick, and you could use that to go over the fireballs and knock the guy down. And then he was very frustrated because he couldn't do his move, and I wouldn't tell him how to do the other one. So I felt like that was kind of a moment which told me about an atomic unit of gameplay, how long you'll spend doing something with your back against the wall before you can turn it around and expect that you turn it around and you get that feeling against the enemies in the game. And that's true for action games too. Like usually when a new enemy type gets introduced or a new mechanic, he's introduced in a kind of a simple way, and then you kind of struggle with it, but then usually you get some sort of upgrade, some sort of ability, or you'll break through in terms of the skill on your own side as a player, and then you'll start to own that guy. And just around the time that starts to become commonplace, we change it because we add something else, or we take him away, or we give him a new ability. So the idea is to keep it constantly fresh, constantly engaging, and give you these small challenge, then some sense of mastery, and then change it so you don't get bored.
Guys, I'd like you all to kind of talk a little bit about next year's Batman's 75th anniversary. And what kind of process do you go through when you're developing a character as an actor or as a writer when that character's already been around for 3/4 of a century? Do it, Troy!
We've been talking about this a lot today because, obviously are we dealing with 75 years of a character's existence, but we're also dealing with the iterations that different actors have shown you what those characters look or sound like. And somebody asked me today, they said, what are you going to do different? What are you going to bring to this that no one has ever brought before? And I said, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Because if I for 1 second think that I can do something better than Cesar Romero, Jack Nicholson, Mark Hamill, or Heath Ledger, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. What each of those people have done for a generation, like for my dad, Cesar Romero was the Joker. For me, growing up until I heard Mark Hamill in 1990, was Jack Nicholson as the Joker. So we've all seen these different sides of these characters, and all we want to do, everybody that's up here, you're right, we're tapping into a 3/4 of a century old franchise. It's one of the oldest institutions that we have in media. And all we want to do is pay homage to that, and we want to respect the reverence that this franchise has brought to people now 3 generations. And that's incredible. Very few things can say that. So that's what we're up here to do.
Shouldn't have let Troy go first. I wanted to do gooder and stuff and make it awesomer. And, we've been answering these questions all weekend, and honestly, look, Kevin Conroy is king. And the notion that we've gotten the question, like, what new are you going to bring to this? And I agree wholeheartedly with Troy. There's nothing we can do. There's nothing that we can do. The notion of filling shoes has been brought up a lot. There's no shoes to fill. You cannot fill those shoes. Thankfully, with this, what we have is a prequel, so we can kind of play around with the timeline a little bit and explore Batman and Joker and all these other characters from a different perspective than we've seen before. But at every single minute of us recording, of I'm sure all the people at Warner Brothers Montreal programming and animating and all of this musical score, every single person here is a fan of the characters. They're a fan of the game. They're a fan of the franchise. This wouldn't be around 75 years if we didn't have people doing that. And so for us, it was always like, what can we do right by this character? For me, it's the same exact thing. A lot of people ask, what did you do to prepare?
Answer is, I honestly didn't do too much, because I knew going in, this guy was going to convey to the director, Amanda Wyatt, what he wanted to get done, and they know so much more about the universe that they wanted to create and achieve with this than I could ever hope to come up with. I can remember, I heard about the 75th anniversary, and I misinterpreted that as, so Batman needs to be 75 years old, and my choice as an actor was completely wrong from the get-go. Which is not what you guys want to see in The Dark Knight. I'm just assuming. And thankfully Eric was there to say, no, it's just 75 years of history.
Eric, what about you? What's the coming into this project, knowing that you're coming in and you're doing Batman's origin, something that has been amazingly told in comics with Year One, with the current 0 year, in movies with Batman Begins, in animated films, you know, coming in to tell his origin and do something like that again, how did you approach it?
He makes it sound really hard because he's got all these references. But it's kind of simple. It's a lineage, right? This is an Arkham game. You've already played Arkham Asylum. I'm pretty sure you played Arkham Asylum and Arkham City if you're here. So you guys you've seen where those games started out, and you saw where those games ended, but you didn't see how they got there, and you didn't see where they started out. And so we want an authentic Arkham experience, not just a Batman game. This is an Arkham game, and it's part of that story. In fact, it's a formative part of that story, a formative part of that world. You all know, it's not a spoiler, that James Gordon and Batman are going to be friends, right? You know. You ruined the whole game!
Get out.
That same guy was
I was just going to say, it's San Diego. I recognize that.
But at the start of our game, they're not. Gordon is pursuing Batman. Batman's a vigilante, he's an outlaw, and Gordon sees him as a wanted man. So we're going to show you in our story something about how that changes. And you're going to play that. You're going to be the pivotal person turning the corner in that relationship. You're going to be changing things. And I like it like puzzle pieces. We're fitting puzzle pieces together to form a picture that we know, but we don't know how those puzzle pieces go together. And I think that with those, there can be moments of revelation. There can be moments of, oh, right, I see how that works. I see, that's interesting. I didn't expect that, rather than, okay, like, yeah, I thought it was like that. Instead, I think we should have a few surprises along the way. So I think that the thing which I'm most excited about, and absolutely terrified about too, I'm not kidding, is when this game goes out, you guys are all going to play it, and you're going to judge it. And I hope that you enjoy those moments. I think that we've taken a few risks along the way, and I hope that's worthwhile. I think we'd be doing you a disservice if we didn't try and take a few risks, because the Arkham games have been, the great games by Rocksteady. They are very innovative. They're very exciting. The quality of everything in there is very, very high. And so we've been very selective of what we've added, be it moments, features, locations, to try and match the quality of these games. And so the story, I think, is the thing all of that stuff hangs off of. There's no point in adding new enemies if you're not adding something to the story. New features, new gadgets, they have to come from the story. And so, I guess I'm kind of meandering there, but what was the question again?
What did you have for dinner? That was crazy.
Caffeine.
Is that water refreshing? That makes sense. Obviously, another part of the big development process here was casting these two. What can you tell us about? Now that Roger looks scared, what can you tell us about the casting process and how you settled on?
We took a really long time casting both of these characters, and we knew it would be hugely problematic. We knew we wanted to have a younger side for these characters because it's a very formative time for everyone in Origins. These guys are all physically younger, they're rebound back, but it's also they're spiritually younger. This is as new to these characters. Events are as new to these characters in the game as they are to these actors up here on this panel. And I think that's something that translated very well when we got them in. But in terms of finding them, we went very wide. We had a lot of people, and we put them through the ringer. We went through huge amounts of reference material. We went through stuff from various key books. We went through stuff from from animated work. We included stuff on sites from the other games too to see if we could capture all those different aspects of those characters. For example, with Batman isn't just one voice. Batman is Bruce Wayne. Batman is Batman, but Batman also talks to Alfred, which is one voice. He talks to himself, which is another voice. And then there's also talking to his enemies, but there's also this other part where he has to inspire fear in other enemies and really bring that out. And we wanted to make sure that whoever we got didn't just have one or two of those, that they could have all of these, and that they could bring something not just interesting and original and youthful to it, but also have that authentic Arkham sound, that they could sound like, when you hear it, that guy will eventually become Kevin Conroy's Batman. Or, in the case of the Joker, become Mark Hamill's Joker, have a lineage there, have a connection. Do you guys want to talk about your perspective when you got the material? It took a while, right? Longer than most casting, I think, for your side too.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the thing for me, the voice print was so paramount. It was of paramount importance on this, and that was what we worked on very, very diligently in the I'd say the first 5-6 sessions. Was nothing but us experimenting with all the different versions of Batman that we've all come to know and love, so that we can kind of capture a Batman at a different time, a less refined Batman, a maybe less defined Batman, but one that could conceivably make sense that you would see this guy transitioning into Kevin Conroy's Batman, or at least all the other versions of Batman that we've come to know. That's why I say that the whole character element of everything was of the utmost importance, because that's what we knew we had to honor. It wasn't necessarily prior performances, it was just, we got to make sure we nail Batman in a believable way. And so we worked a lot with everything, trying out the growl, too much growl, not enough growl, a little more growl, and because we didn't want it to seem like, oh, he's just doing an impression of X, Y, or Z, because we've had so many talented people who have played this character in the past. So, I mean, again, testimony to the passion that the guys at WB Montreal had was just how much time we spent on these characters, which is different from a lot of games that I've worked on in the past, but it really kind of goes to show. I think it's one of the reasons why I'm so nervous about this is just because we've fallen in love with this so much that we want you guys to feel that in what we did, and hopefully it does come across. Oh wow, thanks. Spoiler alert, the way Batman talks to all the bad guys, I just added a southern accent, which I'm hoping you guys, it's a choice. Again, I hope you guys agree with that. Troy.
Can we hear it?
I used to race home every day at 4:30 and make sure that I was in front of my TV because I didn't want to miss Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah!
And I would tape VCR. I could tell by you exactly. Blank faces.
What?
There are many people here who will never know what messing with the tracking means.
Oh my God.
But I would tape each episode because we didn't have Netflix, we didn't have iTunes, we didn't have DVDs, we didn't have anything. You had to watch it being aired. And a lot of times I'd already seen that episode, it wouldn't matter, but I wanted to hear that theme music. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And a lot of times, if it was like an episode I'd seen before, whatever, I would just always make sure that, one of the reasons why I wanted to tape the episode is I wanted to freeze frame at the very end of it, because they flash those credits for like half of a second. And when you tape something on a VCR, you get those wavy lines.
Yeah.
So you look like you have epilepsy as you're trying to read. And I remember going, Batman is Kevin Conroy. Okay, who's that? Joker is Mark Hamill, not Luke Skywalker. Okay. And that 12-year-old kid that sat in front of that TV every day at 4:30 or at 4:59 weeping that that episode had ended, and caught up in his own reverie of what he wanted to do in his future life.